Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
Okay. But what's the approach on public space, and what's the overview on public space in developing countries? So to learn more about this, last October we went to Quito to attend the Habitat Free, which is the housing and sustainable urban development conference organized by Unhabitat, where we presented at the event, the networking event of the American Red Cross, where we've been kindly invited. We have presented a short film they're going to show you at the end of this presentation. So just a few key data. By 2050, the world's population is expecting to nearly double, making urbanization one of the most transformative trends of the 21st century. 70% of people of global population will live in cities. I need to... Sorry. Okay. The new urban agenda, the global commitment adopted during Habitat Free, is aimed to reduce inequalities and promote sustainable and inclusive urban growth. During the conference, one of the main characters of the event was public space, and how public space can positively contribute to a healthy urban growth. The ambitious goal is to have 30 to 50% of urban space designated as a public space. So since Quito, there's been a series of initiatives, conferences, seminars, and publication around the topic of public space and placemaking. So we are architects, and so why do we think there is an urgent need for designers to reclaim public space in informal neighborhoods? So I grew up in a culture of public space, Italy, Siena. This is Siena, Piazza del Campo. Public space in Italy and all across Europe not only shaped the form of our cities, but also represent the backbone of a collective culture. So while I was working for a renowned and commercial architectural office in Rome, we had the opportunity, myself and other underpaid colleagues, to spend lunchtime grabbing a panino or focaccia at the local market, and spending lunchtime around beautiful monuments, famous stairs, or even like bridges with an astonishing view. And of course, like small last coffee before going back to the office. So back to the office, I was working on very high-end and very prestigious projects. But after 2 years of unendless weekends in the office and long hours in the office, I started asking myself about my role as an architect, and if I really wanted to serve my design and technical skill as a designer, just for the privileged few. And at the same time, I was reading book and publication about the concept of public poverty, which is about cities that basically have small pockets of wealth, surrounded by a reality which is informal, which is basically seems to suffer of lack of investment and is unplanned and not designed.
What airport was that one? Just my curiosity.
Shenzhen Airport.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 1.2 billion.
What?
$1.2 billion. So I decided to go for a few months to South America, to backpack South America. I went to La Paz, Bolivia, where I spent 2 months. And La Paz is a great example to explain this concept of public poverty on how like small, rich area, normally gated, are surrounded by like a more informal or like semi-formal environment. And one of the, so I had the opportunity to work with a local organization who have children, and like a social issue, like street children, is one of the effects of this public poverty concept. And it was quite sad, but interesting also to observe how public space or public infrastructure such as cemetery are used by street children as a home. So in 2011, so in 2011, I went to Port-au-Prince. I was supposed to stay just 3 months, and then 3 months became 5 years, like for many of us. Thanks to the American Red Cross, we had the opportunity to start working in Carrefour, which is one of the many informal neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince on public space. People are the real actors of urban life in informal settlements. These informal neighborhoods are completely built by people with people resources, and unfortunately, institutions, local authorities have been completely out of the picture for a very long time. Public space as well, not only like public space, but also public space is in an unplanned settlement, is self-built and self-managed, and and even if the lack of public space, or more accurately, the fact that existing public space is inadequate, might not be the most pressing issues in informal neighborhood. However, there is investing in new public spaces or upgrade existing public spaces is a great opportunity to integrate informal neighborhoods into the formal and planned city. So, how can design address social issues in informal urban context? So, I'm going to walk you through a few points that we think are important on how to address the social, or how design can address the social issues. So, first of all, we establish an effective community engagement process. Let me clarify here that we are not trying to romanticize community engagement. Working with people in any kind of context, central London or in informal neighborhood in Haiti, is a difficult process, although it's absolutely necessary, without which there is absolutely no design process at all. So we are designers, we are architects, we're supposed to be good at observing the existing context. So we record and we observe the existing dynamics that happen in a place, daily habits, or what we call the events, like people playing dominoes under the shade of a mango tree, rather than kids flying kites on the rooftop of the houses. Or we observe also people's solutions in situation of scarcity, which is an extremely interesting thing to observe. This is on the left on a very creative toy store in the refugee camp of Calais, and on the right is a makeshift gym in Torre David, which is a skyscraper in Caracas, left abandoned during construction, so it then started being occupied by people. It became basically a vertical slum, and people reuse the construction material that they found left on site to build like gym equipment. And of course, like housing, and now when people have resources, can increase the capacity of their homes. Then we establish the brief. So normally, when we get a commission, we have been asked to design a public space, but with no further instructions. So we go back, we start with the community. We're trying to understand not only what's the community's vision and ambition for the place, but we also trying to understand technical things, such as technical challenges, such as, for instance, in Haiti, drainage is always like a big issue. So we're trying to understand like a very, very site-specific challenges. So we really think architects and designers in general could contribute positively, could trigger a process where we can bring community members, different stakeholders, clients, donors, different consultants, and local authorities around the drawing table. During the design phase, we go back and forth with the updates on the design. We go back and forth to the community. And this is not only like a way, obviously, to make sure the design is functional and is working, but also is a way to start having people taking ownership of their own place by being involved from the beginning of the process. Then construction begins, which is absolutely the most interesting and difficult and challenging phase. The community engagement during construction is basically a series of constant meetings, constant community and stakeholder meetings where we discuss the different issues. But just besides like these very formal meetings, we have like we receive like a daily feedback with the community, where basically, literally, people like pull my shirt and say, look, the color that you put on that wall is quite interesting, rather than there is a woman say, don't put the staircase here, because I know my neighbor is going to start building his house next month, and that will not work with the design that is put together. So it's an absolutely interesting and necessary process, being constantly in talk with the community. We would like to go back. We would like to go back on site after the project will be done, after the project will be open, to try and understand how the public space is performing and how people are occupying the space. And like we were thinking of different methodologies, like through questionnaires and trying to understand if people are happy, generally happy, or if they have any suggestion on how to improve things. But as well, we're going to monitor and we're going to count like not only the number of people, which is relatively important, but most importantly, the time that is spent by each individual, where each individual is coming from the local neighborhoods or other ones, which could be a great thing. So we encourage like the use of multifunctional and multi-use program in each of the public space. So this is an overview of POST-OCCUPANCY, ROUGE, which is one of the free public spaces, part of the LAMICA project, funded by the American Red Cross. POST-OCCUPANCY, ROUGE used to be a tent camp after the earthquake, and now has been transformed, after a year and a half of work, has been transformed in a very vibrant and very and quite beautiful public space with a multifunctional program. So there are like different concentric terraces, and each terrace has a different take like a different part of the program. We have planted different plants and trees, which has been quite carefully discussed with the community, and it also shows like how important like every Asian seems to be a good agronomist, and it's very, very important to always adopt culturally appropriate design solutions. There is an amphitheater, which is not only the biggest and largest gathering space in the neighborhood, but is also this is like one of the things that's been discussed from the beginning with the community. So everybody agreed that if we were just placing like a flat plaza, it would be a very, very likely possibility that this place was becoming like an informal market and constantly covering trash, which could be a problem. Therefore, we insisted in modeling the entire terrain according to the topography to reduce cost and to create this green infrastructure, which is also include like a dry well, which disperses runoff water. And we proved we actually proved during Hurricane Matthew that the strategy is working. The drainage strategy is working quite fine. Sitting areas with the views of the beautiful mountains surrounding the neighborhood, and workout equipment, which is a very popular thing in public spaces in Haiti. People absolutely love it. And in a couple of weeks, I think we're going to start training because these machines work with their own weight, but it's not quite immediate how to use them. So the supplier will come on site and explain out to people how to. It's going to be a community engagement where we're going to explain how the machine works. So this is for us. So why is it really important to have a multifunctional and multi-use program in a public space? It's to offer people the opportunity to have the choice, and also to make sure that different people from different age, different background, different gender can use the space at the same time. We use locally available materials. This colorful pavers has been fabricated in Haiti. The color has been discussed carefully with the supplier and the community. And the idea was offering the community, providing the community with a different color palette from otherwise cement-like gray, because people don't have the money to paint their own houses. And that's the implantations of the pavers. We work carefully with unskilled workers. In Tapiruge, 75% of non-skilled workforce come from the local community. The contractor is, I would say, is like a medium-sized contractor, because high-quality contractors tend not to come in this kind of environment because tension with the community. So by achieving both quality and working with a lot of unskilled labor, the only way was actually providing supervision on a daily basis. Just one interesting episode. At the beginning, I was on site. I talked to this guy, to Clevois, and I was telling him, please make sure that you cut all the pavers correctly, because for me it's very important. And he's from the local community. And he told me, guess what? It's very, very important to me. And that really shows like how people start taking ownership of the design from the construction as well. And that's actually, the result was pretty astonishing. Link the public space program to an health and well-being agenda. These are two water stations, part of the larger water system provided by part of the program Amica. And the idea is like that the revenue that it comes from selling water will go to provide maintenance and trash collection of the public spaces when everybody will be gone. Increase safety by placing solar lights. This photo is actually quite interesting because it shows like the neighbors at night with all the lights. It's most likely that the public spaces are going to be used during evening and during the night, because all the trees that we planted, we need to be a little bit patient. We need to wait until they're going to be fully grown to provide shade. But it's also an interesting picture, because it shows not only the pocket public spaces, but also like all the corridors. It shows how the public space of Program Amica is like a distributed public space. Transform DRR projects into quality public space. So this is the existing condition of Sky Fred. It used to be a football pitch used by children. They were basically playing in a very prone to risk environment, so prone to landslides as well as like flooding. So it was quite dangerous to actually use that as an existing public space. So an infrastructure, disaster risk reduction infrastructure was needed. And well, obviously this is the result after just a normal day of rain during the rainy season. So we constructed an enormous retaining wall, as well as a big cover to drain all the water and trash under the place. And we just done a 10 to 12 additional % of overall cost, which transformed this absolutely necessary but quite anonymous infrastructure into a beautiful and very vibrant and colorful public space dedicated to sports. So this is also very important to say that we're trying to maintain the original program of how the space was initially occupied. Improve accessibility. This is a project that we did for JPHRO in Dalmat 32, another informal settlement in Haiti. It is a public school, and is basically sitting on a site on a big slope inside of a private site. The school committee asked us precisely to have access, to bring access to every single classrooms for people, for students on wheelchairs, because 40% of the overall students were coming with disabilities. So instead of designing like a massive big building and setting up an ugly ramp on the corner of a site, maybe hidden from everyone, we basically designed a campus-like pavilions that develop around the ramp that are actually serving every single user of the school, not only students but professors as well. And that's the result. Adopt placemaking strategies. So this is a workshop that we did last July back in Tapis Rouge. We engaged, we found like a few very renowned local artists from Haiti, that were willing to work with artists from the community, or even people that were just interested in participating to the program, to create this enormous mural that is basically fencing the perimeter of Tapis Rouge, and it's the wall of a guy that didn't want to sell the property, so he built this gigantic wall. So we transformed that wall into an opportunity to make something quite interesting, and the overall participation was pretty incredible. Very interesting to say. We think that just this part of the program is already been very successful, because after last fall, during the election, the wall has remained intact. There were no political and campaign flyers stuck on the walls like normally happens, and that's the final result. So people start really taking ownership of the participation on this project. So we really think that affordable and quality public space in informal settlement could enhance community resilience and could create like a sense of identity and a sense of a place where people from the community can place the roots of their collective identity. Just a few words about our studio. So Emerging Vernacular Architecture is a socially oriented design studio, design and research studio. Since 2014, we've been providing architecture and urban solution from Port-au-Prince and from London, where we are based. Community-based researches allowed us to identify and to understand the existing, what we call the existing dynamics event, so the emergent system and vernacular method, and therefore we provided architectural solution. If you were wondering where the words emergent vernacular architecture are from. We see architecture as more than just a design. So we think that by understanding the existing content, working with people, architecture is becoming a collaborative process. And through this process, we understand, we're trying to address the community and people's vision and potential, and we're trying to make places that address equality, resilience, and the formation of social capital. This is our team in Haiti. These are the guys that are on the front line, and every day building all the project that we have in Haiti. And this is our team in London. So we have a team, various team of architects, urban planners, and humanitarian specialists as well. So just very quickly, I'm going to show you some other projects that we have still in Haiti. We have like 100% of our projects are in Haiti, so it's like a mistake. We're trying to find some work in London, so we've been developing quite a bit of research on the housing, because there is an housing crisis in London. So this is Martison Park in the informal neighborhood of Martison. It's the only urban park in Haiti, and we've been asking to provide a playground and different spaces. We've been working with other artists on a public space of a human rights wall. And that's the result. We also work with the American Red Cross in Canaan, where we have 12 public spaces and 2 community centers. So, don't know if it's worth to just explain what Canaan is very quickly. Maybe we need to
move a little bit quickly.
Right, I'm almost done. And so this is the community centers that we have designed. We're going to start construction pretty soon. And more public spaces. This is the last thing that we did, is a competition in the ZAATARI camp, where we analyzed the existing context. We interviewed a few people from UNHCR to try to understand how the existing dynamics are actually evolving or they're supposed to evolve in the future. And the competition project was for a marketplace, where the idea was providing just the basic community infrastructure, where we were providing a very cheap and lightweight shading structure, few communal buildings such as a training center or a little library, and basically every single shop owner was providing, was actually in charge of the design and the implementation of their own space. And so this marketplace develops around, it's going to be phased, it develops around the public space. And the main idea was trying to bring people from the camp with people that live in the nearby village, which is the ZAATARI village, together in the same place. People that live in the village are not just Jordanian, but also Syrian that decided to live outside the camp. And thank you.
Thank you so much. I know that you have a video, but I would like to give the participants a chance to maybe ask questions before we move to. Let me check who has participated, but it might take some time to figure that out. Anyone among the participants, anyone who would like to ask a question?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, Christian, go ahead.
So, thank you very much, first of all. I mean, that was a very thorough, extensive presentation, and I find it very interesting. And definitely I see, first presentation, many connections and links with many potential activities to improve resilience at the community level. You mentioned some of them, education, sport, social activities. I wonder, one of the questions that I have is what is the link with, or if you have seen any link with income generation activities, like, for example, farmers market, anything that can increase the income of families, or, and that has to do, and I think is linked as well with how these spaces are managed. Is there a committee, and how the interaction between the management from the community itself and the municipality or institutional level works out, and what are the major challenges. When we talk about income generation activities, I don't know if there is any, but it's like, what indicators have you measured, if there is any, and if not, if you have a plan to do that, or if you see that as a possibility. Another thing, when you look at, for example, earthquake-stricken countries like Nepal or even Italy, one of the things that people tend to do is they run in the piazza, in the square. So I'm wondering whether this is also, can reinforce a preparedness strategy to provide evacuation points, especially if you have crowded situations. And then the question is, how do you deal with crowded situations? Like, for example, I saw that you mentioned ZAATARI. How did you organize a public space there, or even like in a very crowded urban environment? What are the challenges? How do you convince the municipality to do that? And again, the management setup. And that would be all for me.
Okay. So, what is the link with the? Yes. What is the link with the income generation activities. So we didn't directly work with this part of the program. I know the program Amica has some of the activity that were linked, I think, with Mercy Corp, if I'm not wrong. We did observe like an indirect impact of the public space. I think the program Amica is now under evaluation from the community. The indirect impact that I think we will expect to see is like more market kiosks to grow around the public square, and definitely a little bit of increase of jobs opportunity as well. And for the management of community, so this is like the biggest issues, because we've been working with local authorities, but it's been quite challenging. So we designed the place not to be cleaned by themselves, which is not going to happen. But at the moment, it's been open for like even not officially, it's been used for over the past couple of months, and what we observed with no program whatsoever yet, because the water station that are supposed to create like jobs opportunity and community base for cleaning the public spaces just opened like literally a week ago, and the other one's going to be open next week. But we've been observing that some people from the community, there was just an individual initiative, has been cleaning the place a couple of times. Not perfectly clean, but it's much better than we were initially expected. Management of the greenery, for instance, has been like the most pressing design challenge for us. So we've been fencing the public spaces just to make sure that the goats will stay outside the public space. Goats eat everything, including concrete, if possible. So the thing we didn't know, so the strategy is working. The goats are staying out and not eating the plants inside. What we didn't know, that the children love to jump on the plants and destroy the plants. So we need to fence all green spaces, and now we know. So there's a bit of lesson here and there. Preparedness strategies and crowded situations. So yes, all of these are open spaces, are the actual only free open spaces around the communities. As well, in Tapis Rouge, we not just design the plaza, but we also design like large corridors, and that is supposed to take a lot of people to work around. And also in the future, because I don't know if you saw in one of the aerial pictures, there is a massive slope, and that is expected to become basically an extension, a massive extension of the neighborhoods in the future. So yes, it was one of the things that we thought. Also, these gates, so the old place is fenced, there are a lot of access, the gates are quite large, they're very easy to open, so it's one of the things that we thought.
Do you have a question? So maybe first, there's a question from Amy. You partly answered the question, but maybe you can clarify further. So she's asking, can you rely on the community to informally take ownership of the public space to maintain it into the future, or do you make sure there's a formal mechanism set up to maintain it before dividing it?
Yes, this is again one of the most difficult thing to manage. Is like how to maintain the public space itself, and how to make sure that they're clean. So how to maintain the green spaces, for instance. So every single plant that we choose do need to be watered for like the first 2 to 3 months, but every single plant can grow like in normal situation without being watered. And there was one of the points like flamboyant trees, laurier, and all these kind of plants. So that part of the program is covered. when it comes down to make sure that the public spaces are clean, we cannot make sure that they're going to be clean. What we can do is providing like assistance, monitoring how the public space will behave in the future for the next year, just to observe information and to see. It's like the whole process, the whole point of like being involved in these kind of projects is making sure from the very first day that people are involved in the process. And this is like the only way like we can make sure that people can actually take ownership. Not all of them will do, not all of them, but we think like a good amount of people are actually quite proud to have this kind of space. A lot of people work on the spaces, a lot of people work on the participatory, and a lot of people are using the space. So it's quite early to like demonstrate this. We will see in a year or two time. We're going to stay in ATO for a long time, so we will have definitely this information by then.
Great, thanks. Any more questions online? In the room? Go ahead.
So can you talk a little bit about the process of how do you get the rights to use the land? How does that happen?
So the land was partially, there was quite an interesting part of the process. The American Red Cross program manager knows much more about that, so we not be directly involved in the actual process, which was absolutely difficult. Here and there were parts of the land that were claimed by someone, like including like this guy who built this gigantic prison wall, we call the space the prison, to make sure that his space was protected. And I think he lives in Miami, so he doesn't even live there. It's just a garden. It's a beautiful garden. So we are, I don't know too much about how to solve like these land issues, but it's been an extremely challenging thing. One of the examples, we have a big project coming up with the American Red Cross in Canaan. Is an economic zone which will include like a market, a TAPTA station, and a public space. And so the site has not been communicated to the community. The site was actually locked, but some people started understanding because they saw people from the American Red Cross and different stakeholders walking around that specific site. Month after, there were a lot. It's a large, very large site. A lot of people came and just built in the foundation or just dug a hole to make sure that they were locking the property. Also because the dynamics in Canaan were particularly interesting, because it was a public, it was declared as a public utility land from the government after the earthquake, called Canaan, which is the promised land. And that's one of the things that could happen. So yes, land is an issue.
Especially in Haiti, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any more questions?
Yes.
I like Chris's suggestion around the multimodal, the different uses, and I'm curious, I actually came late, so I didn't see the pictures of the slides, but just curious around like enabling nighttime use, and there were discussions around, you incorporate lighting into it, or if there are notions around how long it should be open, or
So we're expecting the public space to work around like dusk until when Asia goes to sleep, which is around 10 o'clock, because they're waking up very early at 4. and yes, public lights. It was solar lights were one of the most important, and I think successful thing, because we think it's a careful phase of good neighbors, because I think they installed one light bulb over the past 2.5 years since they started implanting the solar lights. So this is good. I heard other stories in Haiti of different neighbors when that was a big issue. And I know, like in one of the camps in Jordan, they basically incorporate the batteries inside the poles. So basically, you cannot. Yeah.
I just to make one other I was actually meeting with MIT yesterday who have this urban risk lab, and they've been looking at kind of street furniture, that could be related to preparedness activities for the future. Like I know in Japan, they've done things like putting in some basic infrastructure where they assume they'd put public toilets in the future, put into kind of school playgrounds to put in kind of like drainage areas and tanks, holding tanks, to assume that you would put in portable toilets, like that. But this group at MIT was looking at putting in kind of kiosks or things that were sort of, in some sense, like playground equipment, but that also had like an educational purpose, around disaster information and preparedness information, and just kind of incorporating how we think about those kind of recreational spaces and what kind of educational purpose they can also serve. But also, I think they were starting to look at basic cooking facilities or water supply that could be available for kind of community sheltering. But just curious if that's come up and kind of how you guys have been thinking about these kind of spaces.
So no, one of the most interesting thing was like how to basically merge engineering work, like necessary work, like drainage, and how to turn this. I show like few images, but like if you remember, like there is the center of ROUGE, which has a different set of pavers. And that center is actually not just an aesthetic feature, but it's also supposed to collect water. Under this layer of pavers, there is like a big driveway, and it's connected with overflow pipe to other existing channels, water channels. So yes, it was an important thing that we thought. In Canaan, we will actually try to incorporate more and more like how drainage system can be turned into architectural or urban design solutions, and that's quite.
But also, I remember that this kind of places can be linked to or integrated into, for example, evacuation plans. And I remember in Lamika, you had these elements too. Can you talk a little bit about that?
For the evacuation plan?
Yeah, the schools, for example, the schools we built, and are all part of the evacuation plan.
Actually, we didn't build any school in Lamika. I think it was Bill Change that they work on the school program, on the retrofit of the school.
But this
project.
Open spaces, they are not part of the evacuation plans or urgencies.
They partially are, as we coordinate with Bill Change, making sure that they add like a quite sufficient public space to collect all the students in case of an earthquake just outside. And this is happening. I think there are two schools that Bill Changes work on that are actually facing our public space. One is in ROUGE, and the other one is Terenkatesh. So no, definitely it was part of.
As far as I can see, there is no questions online. So do you think we can go ahead with the video?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to start the video, but if the resolution is really bad, please let me know. Maybe we can switch to sharing again.
Eighty percent of city dwellers live in informal neighborhoods. People have taken their place in the city, in their own houses by themselves. As the city is built, the way it is financed, the urban fabric of almost settled. Sorry, we're gonna try.
The sharing screen.
Yeah. In 80% of city dwellers live. People have taken their place in the city, built their own houses by themselves. As the city is built, the way it is managed, the urban fabric of the former settlement spaces what comes crowded and empty spaces. live in dangerous or vulnerable areas will go to risk. In Tapis Rouge, we started by asking a question.
Un milieu rassemblement, c'est un petit monde, grand monde, petit monde. Tout qualité monde net, il pour être capable de passer un temps. Quand ça est capable de faire une activité à faire, capable soit pour musique, soit pour football, soit pour un championnat, un bagage quelconque.
To invest in public space. When it comes to working in these kind of environments, these kind of communities, there's been no investment from the public sector, from the government for so long. And also, when you look at the way people live, people find spaces, there's limited spaces they have to live their everyday life. 25, 30 square meters, and the whole family is living underneath that roof. You need to try and provide space to breathe. Something community can come together, talk together, maybe resolve problems together.
The design process we adopted in Tapis Rouge has the community at the center. First, we observe and study the different dynamics and events that take place in an informal area. Then we engage the community and create a design. The people of our community are those who best know how our site was originally occupied. They show us their vision for our place, and together we discuss the issues that prevent some ideas from working. Through a participatory approach, we design the space together with friends. Then finally, we begin construction, the most vibrant and interesting stage, where the people are visible in the center. Here, 75% of non-skilled workforce come from the local community. We also adopt placemaking strategies in workshop with local artists. At this point, we receive daily feedback simply by informal conversation.
Jusqu'à ce que quelqu'un qui sont professionnels en construction, jusqu'à ce qu'ils mourent, par exemple, réaliser même en place publique. Mais c'est un grand gain pour moi quand même parce que moi réaliser ça, ça fait beaucoup plus.
Il y a pourtant, moi, je suis un peu de son, du projet, moi, un projet comme ça, un bel projet. Parce qu'on a fait monter quand ça parlait, parce que le projet va être réalisé, mais tout ça maintenant, je suis allé, moi, je suis bien, je continue dans la population avec la facilité.
C'est un bon bagage. C'est un bon bagage pour nous parce que ça vous a c'est vraiment un moment de temps. Nous y allons nous avons une belle place. Nous même tout le monde aime ça.
Non, mais bon, il y a un petit peu, on va comprendre des choses même, des choses qui ont envie, on a envie.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us here.
Please remember that this square is part of our project Lamika, right?
Yes.
Funded by American Red Cross Recovery Program, and now Eva Studio is, as Andrea mentioned, doing even more comprehensive, I think, initiative under Canaan project. Some of you may be familiar with that. It's also part of the American Red Cross Recovery Program in Haiti. I think with that, we are getting close to our time. Unless anyone has any more questions, we are going to close now. Any questions online? Okay. All right. Thanks again, Andrea.
And we have a
Okay.
copy of
Yeah. By the way, it is recorded, and I will share it. Yeah. I will share the recording with you, and also if you would like to have if you can't download it, maybe we can share the video and the presentation.
Yeah.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Just let me know. Thanks everyone for participation. So we are ending right now.
What would the budget like for like the ROUGE?
Okay, so Tapis Rouge is 250,000. Kaya Freight